So another memory that I'm kind of thinking of here was back in 1991. We had just moved to a different part of South Carolina, and we spent the Christmas there. And we were recovering from a lot of our property had been damaged. The previous place we lived with the Hurricane Hugo had came through, and we were still kind of recuperating from that. I remember that year because how cold it was, and Christmas time came around, and my mom had went to the KB toy stores at the time, and she was buying Christmas presents, and she had bought us three Nintendo games that we opened that Christmas day, and they were three games I really liked playing at the time. They were one of them was Operation Wolf. It was a Zapper. We used a Zapper game, part of the Nintendo. It was basically like a self-paced side scroll. It would go across the field, and you would shoot the bad guys, and then you had like grenades on your bar, and you would shoot the grenades to make them go off, so it would mass kill the bad guys coming through. It was based from an arcade that Taito made at the time. The original arcade, I remember being in Aladdin's castle in the mall, and I remember my mom had remembered that I played it in the mall, and that's why she found that game. She saw it was on sale. But it had I think it had an Uzi, or a gun that looked like an Uzi, that would sit up on the arcade to where you can shoot inside the screen, and I liked it so much, so she found a copy of it for Nintendo, and she gave it to me for Christmas. Another game that she had bought, which I'm a huge Three Stooges fan. I liked Three Stooges, the stupid humor that was in it. So there was a Three Stooges Nintendo game that came out, and my mom found that as well and gift wrapped it and gave it to me. And it's based off of like little mini games. There's a pie throwing mini game. There's a curly eating clam chowder with the little crackers. You have to scoop them out of the clams because they come through and eat your crackers. There was another one where Larry had to grab the radio box that had Pop Goes the Weasel to bring back to Curly that was in the ring fighting with his boxing gloves. Apparently that song gave Curly like infallible strength to where no one could hurt him. You had to guide Larry. He was self-run. You had to guide him through ladders and fire hydrants and cats and stuff on there, and you grabbed the radio and you had to race all the way back to the ring. But that was one of the games, and you would only have a certain amount of time. If you failed, it would tell you failed. You had this little bar that would have these fingers, and you would pick the next event, and that little hand would speed up as you progress through the game. And the only way to make it go slow again was to use your character to interact with the other Three Stooges, and you would use Mo to slap the other Three Stooges around, poke their eye, slap them, whatever. And that mini game would slow the hand to where you can pick stuff a lot better without it speeding up too fast. The point of the game was to raise enough money to save an orphanage, and there were certain endings to that game to where you would make, if you didn't make enough money, it would show how the house and its rubble or whatever. We played that game. Me and my brother played that game a whole lot. Back to the Future was the third game. So it was an LGN game. It was kind of poorly made. So you would guide Marty through like streets, and you would have to dodge like Biffs, run across, and mailmen and oil slicks and stuff. And then as you could progress, you would get to a picture of Marty's family disappearing, but you would have to hit these spots without the picture disappearing, because if you didn't make it, the game would end. Once you hit an end of like 3 levels, you would go to a special level, And I remember going and it was the cafe scene where you had to shoot these banana splits at people running in after you. And I remember doing that. I never did beat that game. I still haven't beat it to this day. I think I got to, I can't remember what it was. What it was the next part of the game to where it was just almost impossible to beat. And most of the LGN games that came out at that time were kind of impossible to beat. But that was one of the funnest games I've ever, not one of the funnest games, but it was one of the most aggravating games I've ever played. But I did enjoy my Christmas presents that year. It was a fun time. It was fun being in that trailer and how cold it was that year. And I remember just sitting in my pajamas playing my games. Definitely share some thoughts on that year if you have any games you bought or anything like that. We do appreciate it, if you share some comments with it. So. But the third game was the first beat 'em up game that me and my brother had ever played. We didn't have Double Dragon. We had a game called Bad Dudes, and that was the third game that mom got. No, wasn't Bad Dudes. That was another memory.